Wow, I just love when people sing. Singing just has a way of evoking emotions. Hello, champs. Do you know music and poetry are similar? If you didn't, now you do. Poems have a way of evoking emotions just like music. When beats are added to a poem, then it becomes a song. Previously, we learned about some elements of poetry. In this lesson, we will be reading a poem and putting into practice the elements of poetry learned by analyzing the poem structure and the poetic techniques used. Without further ado, let's dive into our poem, Wandering Thoughts. Alone with my thoughts, boiling in my mind is pain and sorrow, crushing every bit of hope, dying and longing for peace. Everyone deserts me. For how long will this last? Growling grace of rocks shoots down. Happiness now is not the crown. Inside my mind is a forest, jumbled up with vines and roots. Kindness draws closer. Love and peace abound. My mind is open to love, not the love accompanied by pain. Oh, pain, how I miss you. Pain is the evidence of love. Queuing in line is destruction of self. Raging emotions of sunshine silently creeps in and out to hold me bound to love. Under the umbrella of desire, vines of vipers slither in, wandering in the woods. Zerzum shows its face finally. Yes, I see you. Zombies live here now. That was quite long. Now let's start with the analysis. We will begin with the type of poem. While we were reading, did you notice anything at the beginning of the lines? Right, the poem is written using the English alphabetical order. This type of poem is called an alphabet poem. Alphabet poems follow an alphabetical order, starting with the first letter of each line of a poem. Now it's time to talk about the structure. How many stanzas do we have in this poem? 5 stanzas is correct. And how many lines? I know it's quite easy because we followed the English alphabet and there are 26 letters, so there are 26 lines. Remember we learned that lines have names? What name or names can we give to our 26 lines poem? Let me help you out with that. We learned that a poem of 10 lines is called a dizaine, and a poem of 6 lines is called a sestet. So we can say that our 26-line poem is made up of 2 dizaine, which is 20, and 1 sestet, which is 6. That gives us a total of 26. And since a 5-line poem is called a quintet and a 1-line poem is a monostic, we can also say that our poem is made up of 5 quintets and 1 monostic. Let's take a look at the sound device in the poem. Can you find any? In this poem, alliteration is the predominant sound device. If you recall, we said alliteration is when a particular sound is repeated in closely connected words. This we can see in lines 2, 7, 9, 13, 21, 22, and 23. Repetition is another literary device in the poem. There's the repetition of the phrase "my mind" in lines 2, 9, and 13. Using the literary device imagery, the poet paints a vivid picture of a person's inner turmoil and pain using imagery such as boiling, crushing, dying, and raging emotions in lines 2, 3, 4, and 18, respectively. The poem also employs symbolism, with the idea of a forest being used to represent the person's inner mind in lines 9 and the vines of viper to represent their own destructive emotions in line 22. The last figure of speech we will be analyzing in this poem is personification. Personification is giving human attributes to non-humans to create fictional images in the mind of the reader. In line 7, the poet uses personification by giving a human attribute of shooting to the growling grace of rocks. In this lesson, we were able to identify the type of poem, the structure and poetic techniques such as alliteration, repetition, imagery, symbolism, and personification used in the poem. Did you notice any other elements of poetry that were not mentioned? If you haven't noticed any other element, then you need to take a deeper look at the poem, champs. Keep analyzing.